Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of El Supercast. With me today is Soul Man X. How are you doing today, sir?
Better. Con recovery is in full effect.
Oh, really? And that would be Otakon, correct?
Yep. I mean, you were there.
I know, I was there, but the people don't know that. Now they do. So, a brief synopsis: Washington, D.C. had a pretty packed convention. What was it, 29K or was it 30K?
They were full total attendance was over 29K, paid
Okay.
attendance was over 26K.
Oh, all right. That's still even though it didn't seem like that many because the place is so big, it's still a decent amount of people.
Yep, they bounced back.
Hmm.
So, it looks like they're back to number one East Coast anime con. So, Anime Boston got to experience that for about a year or two.
Yeah, yeah. It should give them some recognition to have more people come back next year.
It'll be interesting to see if they end up going back to the BCC when it's ready, or if they do so well in DC that maybe they'll stay in DC.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that because that center in D.C. looks like it could hold roughly well, I think about a few thousand more.
And if it got to that point, they'd have to do what they did back at the BCC and do the attendance cap,
Yeah.
which they ended up not needing the first year, the 1 year they did it because they dropped in attendance because they were moving.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
But I think we'll touch base more on that with Three Guys.
Indeed.
So I heard that you did some game chasing. What did you pick up these last couple of weeks?
Well, I chased two different times, once at Starland and once actually answering a Facebook ad.
Oh, really?
I normally don't do the Facebook ads because I usually don't have the money to do it, but I did at the time, so I did it and it was a good deal.
All right. So what did you pick up?
Uh, I'll do which do you want, the first, the Starland or the Facebook ad?
Hmm. East Starland is good.
Alright, so Starland, I went with Kitty and we took our niece because she had never been before, so we picked up a bunch of stuff for her. I didn't get around to researching the savings that she got on her stuff. I just remember we paid about 35 bucks for an old school Game Boy Advance, not the SP, like the one of the original ones. So I'll have to do some research on that. It was in the mini mart too, so it was probably significantly less than what they would have asked for in the main store.
Yeah.
So, like, for those who don't know what the mini mart is at East Starland, it's basically their weekend flea market. Like every Saturday and Sunday afternoon, they'll open up the back portion of the store, which they usually only open like on the weekends or once a month for certain events, and they'll sell some of their inventory marked down because there might be things like scratches or cracks or what some sort of like defect, but it doesn't affect the playing of the
Hmm.
game or the use of the accessory. So there was, I was sifting through there, and you know both Katie and my niece found a few things, and then I found a couple things. The first thing was a Game Boy. No, the Game Boy Link cable was actually in the main store.
Okay.
That was, like $5 I think it was, and I saved a few dollars on that. I actually tested it on my Game Boy Advance SP because it's the same port. The only difference is that the Game Boy Advance link cable has an extra prong on it, whereas the old Game Boy Color cables don't. And that's so that it prevents like cross trading between, say, like a Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon game versus a Gen 3 Pokemon game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it doesn't crash the games or
Hmm.
anything like that. And
You
so
know,
the actual.
I just wish they had the the site to be like, oh, we can trade through any generation. That way, people can have their views.
Well, it is possible to transfer from Gen 3 all the way up to now, which is Gen 7.
Really?
It's a long, tedious process, and if you've got $100 kicking around, assuming you don't have all the materials to do so,
Uh
it's
huh.
it's doable. I just watched a YouTube video on that like last week,
Oh, okay.
but that's for another video. Uh, but I got the so then in the actual mini mart, I picked up two games. I picked up Hey You Pikachu for the N64 for $2. The only problem is I forgot that you need the special N64 microphone that came with the game,
That's right.
but I don't think Eastarland has it right now, or I don't think they have any records of it, so they probably never got any. And usually you can buy them on eBay, but the only hit I got was someone was selling both the mic and the game on eBay for 25, and that's a no-go.
Yeah.
And then
As
I
as
got
Joe
the
as Joseph would say, "Oh no."
which version is saying oh no? Arc 2 or 3?
Let's see here. You know what? I find more hilarious the R2 one.
Yeah, just wait till you watch Arc 3.
Oh
It'll
jeez.
be even funnier. It's a lot more dramatic
Yeah.
than Arc 2.
Yeah, and R2 it just seems funny. Oh man, and what the hell, man? He's checking out his mom.
Spoiler alert.
I know, I know. Hey, what? That's been around for what? Not
Yeah,
that
I
much
mean,
of a
it's
spoiler thing.
JoJo spoilers are hard to avoid.
That's right. JoJo checks out his mom, but I didn't say where and I didn't say how. So there you go.
Oh man. And this last one is a little bit of a blast from the past, especially for those of you old school Spoonie fans before he went off the deep end.
Oh jeez. What
Because
did you
I
get,
had,
so man?
oh man, get ready for it.
All
It's an
right.
NES game, The Adventures of Bayou Billy.
Oh, good lord, that one. That's a
So
hard
what was
game right
wasn't
there.
isn't it like a puzzle game kind of like?
No, you ride in the jeep, I think, or am I thinking of Jekyll? No, I think about I'm trying to remember.
Oh, maybe it is a Jeep. There is a Jeep on the cover, so of the
Okay.
game. So
Yeah, it
there's
could be the
probably
one
a
that I
Jeep.
remember. You some stages you ride in the jeep and you're trying to attack other jeeps, and then you get this for whatever reason you get this jungle no not no this swamp level that you're supposed to punch a crocodile or something. Yeah, it's pretty wacky. Also hard.
So once I get my NES working, that's what I have to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah. You might as well put in. You might as well buy yourself a Game Genie if you want to beat that one.
Oh man.
Yeah, that one's hard, man. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
I mean, for $2 though, I mean,
Yeah, that's a
it's a
good deal.
steal.
Yeah, that's a very good deal.
Yeah, $2 for some Nintendo games, and I saved about like what, like $4 or $5 each on
Probably.
those,
Yeah.
and last but certainly not least, finally reacquired a copy of Pokemon Ruby for the Game Boy Advance because price drops.
Ah, yes. And this
Because
this one had a small problem, the battery, right?
yes, but it's an easy fix because my Emerald version had the same problem. Probably because the previous owner played the hell out of it, just like
Mm-hmm.
how I played the hell out of Emerald.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a fun fact for those of you who play the Gen 3 Pokemon games, mainly Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, you might come across a message when you boot up the game, especially now, where it'll say something along the lines of the internal battery has run dry. The game will still play, however, time-based events won't occur. So that popped up. So what that affects in those games is you can't do any daily events, like such as if the department store has a sale. You can't really access the the entirety of the shoal cave, and you need that in order to get all the items and do all the events. There's a couple other. Oh, the Eevee evolutions for Espeon and Umbreon. You can't
Oh
do
yeah,
those.
that's right. Because it needs to be like what, midnight and morning, noon or something.
Yeah, it's like AM for Espeon and PM for Umbreon, I think, in those games.
Mm-hmm.
But because you can get Eevee obviously in Fire Red and Leaf Green, so if you want an Espeon or Umbreon in those games or in Ruby Sapphire Emerald, you got to trade the Eevee over to Ruby Sapphire or Emerald, and then evolve it as needed for whatever time frame you're looking for. So AM for Espeon and PM for Umbreon, I believe is what it was.
Oh,
If I'm
Eevee.
wrong, just reverse it.
Eevee is like the only Pokemon that has all these absurd evolutions.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's more that over time. There's a lot more absurd ways to evolve nowadays. Look at freaking Gen 6, that one, what was it, Inkay? In order to evolve it into Malamar, you have to have your DS turned upside down when it levels up to evolve it.
Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah.
Yeah, that you want absurd ways to evolve. That's just another example.
Well,
Like,
they
oh,
they gotta figure out more ways to make it fun.
yeah, it's all about the innovation at
Yeah.
Nintendo and Game
Yeah.
Freak, and so then the easiest way to fix the battery problem, at least if you, well, let's say you live near, let's say you're in like the the DC area and you live near East Starland,
Hmm.
drive on down there and show them the cartridge for like $5 or $6. They'll fix the battery or replace the battery, and you'll have it won't affect your game, and you'll have time-based events again. I'm sure there's other stores out there that do that kind of thing, or you can probably like ship you off your game to some, like, I don't know, factory or who knows. But for me right now, that's the easiest fix is eStarland.
Hmm.
They do the battery fixes. So I picked up Ruby for $20. The online average is about 25, so I saved $5 because Ruby's dropped from its old MSRP of 35 down to about 25. So at least
I
that one dropped a little bit.
I also picked up a game through eBay of all places.
Oh God.
No, it was a pretty good deal. I picked up Looney Tunes Space Racing for the
Hmm.
Sega Dreamcast, and
I vaguely remember that one.
yep, I had the demo of it, and I was like, one of these days when I can, I gotta buy the game because this is fun. Oh
What
yeah.
other systems was it on? Because I could have sworn it was on other
I think it
systems.
was on PlayStation. I don't know if it was PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, but I know they had it there. This was back in, what's the copyright of this one? I want to say that this one was, at least the Dreamcast one was copyrighted in, yeah, the year 2000. Yeah, so
Oh,
this
okay,
game,
that's
this game's 18 years old. Talk about retro. Ah!
okay. Yeah, you're right. It came out on Dreamcast and PlayStation 2
Yeah.
in yeah, Dreamcast was in 2000 and PlayStation 2 was 2002.
Hey,
So
Somer,
they got
look up what the PlayStation 2 one is going for.
okay. Uh, give me a moment. Just like talk about something else while I'm looking.
All right. Well, I have to say this. When it comes to Suzy Q and Lisa Lisa, I don't know which one I would pick.
Always Lisa Lisa, because
Oh
she's a
man,
MILF
I
and
hear
she's
you.
got the hormone. She's got the hormone to keep her looking young.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like the Tsunade of the
Tsunade, yeah, that's
JoJoverse.
right. She is, cause shouldn't she be like in her I don't know. She should be up there in
She
age,
should
right?
She should be like in her 40, I think in like her 40s or 50s.
Yeah, something like that. Because Joseph is like what, in his
He's
20s?
20. He's like I think he's about 20. He's like 19 or 20. I want to say
Okay.
he's 20.
Yeah.
So, and because Lisa was the baby from Arc 1. Remember
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
Jonathan rescued before he bit the dust.
Oh yeah, that was sad.
But and then I don't know because I'm assuming I know you skipped around Arc 2 a lot, but because there was an explanation at the beginning or maybe at the end
Okay.
how basically Lisa was raised by Straitso.
Oh, okay.
So that's why she knew how she knew Hamon and how she used it to basically maintain her youth.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting story. Like
A
all the
very
origins to
bizarre
these
story,
characters.
if you ask me.
Oh, you said PS2, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it came
Let's
out for the PS2.
see. This is okay from 5+ stores. How do I compare prices? I want to see the okay, compare from 5+ stores.
All right.
Okay, so let's see. There's let's see, 13.97, 13.75, 5, 21.99, 28.58. So it's all over the spectrum
Yeah.
from the looks of it. I'd have to do some math to
Now that one that's $5, does it come with the booklet and instructions or no? Is it just the disc alone?
I don't know, but it's got a $4 shipping fee.
Oh,
So the
okay.
total, there's the total. Well, I should say I'm not factoring in shipping for all of these.
Yeah.
So because some of them have free shipping, some of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean the grand totals for, I guess I could do the total price instead of like before shipping, just assuming that you're actually buying them online rather than buying in a store.
Yeah.
This is the PlayStation 2 copy. That's the one you wanted, correct?
Yeah. I just want to see a price range from that one because
Okay.
it's probably still out there. Not
Well, I'm
not as
sure it is.
not as rare as the Dreamcast one.
Let's see. 8.99 plus 21.99 plus 28.58, and that's 5 results. So we'll divide by 5. So we'll say the average is about $18,
Yeah.
just because some
That's
of them are
that's
way overpriced and
that's
some
not
are way
bad.
underpriced.
That's not a bad deal then. I think. Oh, I know. Check out East Starland. See if they have it. You should pick it up.
Let's see. estarland.com.
So
Yeah,
while
we
we
gotta
are
talk.
recording this podcast on Twitch, they are showing a JoJo's marathon. If you go to Vix Media on Twitch, you can see it there, and they have some interesting little snippets by two of the Viz workers. They show off the DVD set, and there's one video that's pretty neat. It's about last year where there was a JoJo event, and everyone was striking a pose, and this woman dressed up as Dio did like a badass pose, so she ended up winning the thing.
You know why they do the epic poses, right?
It's their the way they're formed, their attack form, right?
Not even that. It's the inspiration where the inspiration came from the creator. He saw a lot of I think it was when he was traveling or just from, browsing, he was he saw a lot of artwork and sculptures from Michelangelo, like
Okay.
all of his Renaissance artwork.
Hey, so man,
So,
keep talking because my dad got here and I need to bring up the laundry.
okay.
All right, I'll be
So,
back.
so pretty much the what happened was the creator saw a lot of Michelangelo's work, and if you've seen any of Michelangelo's artwork, especially the poses from his sculptures and maybe even the Sistine Chapel stuff, the poses are very unique, And the creator of JoJo was very inspired by these works of art, and he incorporated these Michelangelo poses into his own work of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So when you see all these characters like Jonathan or Joseph or the Zeppelis or the Pillar Men or Dio or any character in the series striking these odd or bizarre poses, it's not really because that's what the it's well, I mean, it's from the creator, but it originates from Michelangelo. That's where it all came from. And I thought that was a pretty cool fact when they presented that at the Do You Even Pose panel a couple years back at Katsucon when I saw that. So there's all kinds, like, he draws all kinds of inspiration for JoJo between Michelangelo for the poses, a lot of Western music for the names of the characters because he loved classic rock and hip hop and alternative and pop from Europe and the States. So he really liked because he liked them enough to incorporate them into the characters somehow, even though when they got dubbed or when they did the translations for the subs, they had to change some of the names around because of copyright infringement for the artists, which I don't understand because it's just a character. It's not the musician or the band themselves. So you have some examples include like the Pillar Man Santana, the very first Pillar Man that JoJo and the other characters fought, or Joseph, I mean, for that specific JoJo. Uh, they they changed his name from Santana to San Viento because of how similar because of the name being drawn from Carlos Santana, or from another example, Arc 4, one of the stands, Killer Queen, when it was translated in the subtitles, it got changed to Deadly Queen, even though the audio he's saying Killer Queen. They said Deadly Queen in the subtitles, and they'll probably say it in the dub too, just because, again, it goes back to names of artists and bands and songs being, Killer Queen, one of the hit songs from classic rock band Queen. So there's that little bump in the road that JoJo occasionally faces with, copyright stuff. But again, that's just emphasizing that, you know, the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures draws from a lot of different inspirations between art and music and even from other anime and manga from the past. Like, I think, what is it, that the main character from Fist of the North Star bears a very, very like very striking resemblance to Jonathan Joestar, the first JoJo in the series. Like the hairstyle, the outfit, even some parts of the face, like they are almost dead similar. And they both came out around the same time because the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure started in 1987 in the manga, and Fist of the North Star, I believe, started around the same time, maybe sooner. I think Fist of the North Star was maybe early 80s, I want to say, rather than late 80s. I'd have to look that up real quick while Ginyu's running around doing other stuff. Fist of the North Star was released. The manga was released in 1983 and it ran till 1988. So yeah, that's another thing that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure drew inspiration from was Fist of the North Star. What was the name of the character though? I can't, because I never watched it. I really wanted to watch it, but I just never got around to it. Let me see. Oh, it was Kenshiro. I think that was his name, was Kenshiro. Yep, Kenshiro. He's the Yeah, he was so basically if you were to do a side by side comparison of Jonathan to Kenshiro, you would see that they're almost dead similar, and that Araki drew a lot of inspiration from Fist of the North Star, or at least from Kenshiro into Jonathan. And speaking of Jonathan, actually, the English voice of Jonathan Joestar was at Otakon this past week, and Johnny Young Bosch, who's also done a lot of popular anime series, like he was Ichigo Kurosaki in Bleach, and even before he did anime and video games, he was also Adam Park on the Power Rangers series back in the 90s. I wasn't really a Power Rangers fan, but I'm aware that he got his start on Power Rangers. Unfortunately, he only had one signing for the entire convention of Otakon, and of course it got capped hours before it even began because everybody wanted to see him, and it was his one signing, whereas all of the other guests had multiple signings throughout the weekend, and ended up lucking out with meeting Todd Habercorn and Jeremy Lay on day 3 before the end of the convention, because now unfortunately it's very difficult to meet voice actors, especially at bigger conventions such as Otakon, because line caps are inevitable, and not like back in the good old days, and especially at smaller conventions where you didn't even have to go to their signings or to their panels to bump into them. You'd probably bump into them in the hallways or at the bars or wherever. Like you could, like I'm going off on a tangent here just to kill time for Ginyu to get back, but good example was AAC or another anime con 2009 2010 up in New Hampshire. I must have run into Wendy Powell and Chris Kaysen, who voice Envy and Gluttony on Full Metal Alchemist, at least half a dozen times outside of their signings and their panels. That's how easy it was to run into them. And granted, this was also back when AAC was in Nashua at the Radisson, which was a smaller venue compared to their bigger venues in recent years. But that's just how small and how easy it was to see them back then. So if Johnny ever did if he ever did a small con like that, and he was just wandering around, I could probably get a shot with him. But and even then, nowadays it's almost like Comic-Con where you have to pay a pretty hefty amount of money just to get a picture or an autograph unless you bring something with you. Like most voice actors now are like on that Comic-Con level where they charge Comic-Con type rates. If you don't have something for them to sign, they've got pictures that they'll sign for you, but you got to pay for it. If you want a picture with them, you usually have to pay. It varies from voice actor to voice actor, and it's not the voice actor's fault. It's actually usually their managers or their agents or even the conventions who that are usually the reason why they have to charge the rates for their stuff. Whereas in the past, even if you forgot something, if they happen to have some extra pictures kicking around, they would sign it for you free of charge. Or if you had your camera or your phone on you, you could do a quick picture with them and they were cool with that. But now it's a little bit trickier depending on the guest. Like, I would have loved to have gotten another picture with Todd Habercorn, but he was charging for pictures. And again, that's not Todd Habercorn's fault. That is that is his manager or his agent or it's Otakon itself who's asking you to pay those fees to get, an autograph or a picture. So I just took a hard pass on then. I'm happy enough having him sign what I had him sign and just say hi, thanks for being awesome, thanks for, making my niece fangirl and all that. And then there was but it's pretty much everything with all the other voice actors too. Even if I didn't bump into them at the con, they probably all were doing the same thing with, you got to pay this much for a picture, and or you got to pay this much for an autograph if you already don't have something to sign. But I don't know. I don't know what's taking Ginyu so long, but I don't know what other video games I have that I can talk about while I'm waiting for him to return. Trying to think back to any other. Oh, something I picked up at the Airman's Attic a couple weeks ago. Not necessarily like video games, but some accessories. I'm not sure if they're PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, but the controller I believe is a PlayStation 1 controller, so Kitty can use, or I don't think she has a PlayStation 1 anymore. But if we ever get a PlayStation 1, we've got a controller for it. Yeah, I believe this is a PlayStation 1 controller. And I picked up a few memory cards that might be either PlayStation. I know this is a PlayStation 2 memory card.
All right,
This
I'm
one is
back,
also.
Stoneman.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank God. I was running out of material.
No problem. So you were talking about memory cards?
Oh yeah, I was going on a rant about voice actors and inspiration for JoJo, and I also picked up. I forgot that I picked these up a couple weeks ago at the Airman's Attic. Some PlayStation accessories.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I believe this is a PlayStation 1 controller. The color and everything look like a PlayStation 1 controller. These look like all PlayStation 2 memory cards.
Mm-hmm.
I found a whole bunch of those, and
Take
I don't know.
a picture of everything you got, so that way I can post a link of it on the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that at some point.
Yeah, that should be good.
But and you wanted me to look up the East Starland prices for
Yes.
the Looney Tunes
If
game.
they had it.
They have it.
They do? Oh, okay.
Yep.
How much?
So for a used complete copy of Looney Tunes Space Race for PlayStation 2,
Mm-hmm.
that is $13.75.
Complete.
And
that's not too bad.
And then for the Dreamcast version that you got,
yeah,
this is a used copy with no manual, and they are asking for $16.47.
So I believe I paid for mine that was complete, 20 something. So that's
and that
not.
was the Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's the Dreamcast. So that's not too bad.
You did lose. You lost out a little bit because you did go on eBay. Why didn't you go to East Starland first?
Because I didn't want the incomplete one.
Oh, you wanted well, I guess you get what you pay for. Where
Indeed.
if you want the full version and you're willing to pay a little extra,
Yep.
I guess eBay or Amazon is your real only option,
Mm-hmm.
unless you want to go hunting at a flea market or.
Yeah, but over here, there's not really that much when it comes to flea markets for video games anymore. I mean, we got Retro Game Plus, but the times that I've been there, it's kind of hit or miss if you find something that you're looking for.
That's like any store, really.
Yeah.
I mean, even East Starland, with how big they are, it's hit or miss depending on what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually found out some of the thrift stores in my neck of the woods usually have video games, and I wasn't aware of that.
Really?
So when I actually have money to go game chasing again, I might actually hit those up instead of East Starland. I'm only going to go to East Starland to get my cartridge fixed.
Yeah.
I might try some of the thrift stores to see what they got.
Because you never know when you might get a good deal.
Yep. Could be a flea market, a thrift store, or a retro store.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think this is a good time to bring an end to this cast. So, before we go, Soul Man, a website you would like to give props to?
since we were just talking about it, why not just give props to eStarland.com
Okay, good.
for those who don't have the convenience of driving to eStarland. Why not just go to the website and place an order and get a decent deal on video games compared to Amazon or eBay and all that good stuff.
All right, everybody. This has been another edition of El Supercast. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Later.